Hello everyone. Let's head on to our first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for ditching my girlfriend at a restaurant, which contributed to her failing her probationary period at work? I, 27M, have been in a relationship with my girlfriend, Cindy, 26F, since university. Last September, Cindy's company went under. She took this hard because she loved her workplace, loved her colleagues, and loved her boss. Unfortunately, they just weren't making that much money, so the plug was pulled. When Cindy came home and delivered the news to me, I asked if she wanted me to introduce her to my boss. Having the same major, we work in the same field, and my company is almost always hiring. Cindy said yes, and I texted my boss on the spot. After delivering her CV to him and a short interview process, she was hired in a 3-month probationary position. I was really excited to be working with Cindy. We could save money on gas by carpooling, spend more time together, and have lunch together too. Unfortunately, things did not pan out. To be frank, Cindy was a horrible employee. She showed up to the office 15 to 20 minutes late virtually every day. I had to give up on carpooling with her because I have a morning meeting, and I need to get to work 15 minutes early every day. Cindy's favorite activity at work was opening up a blank Google Doc and looking at her phone under her desk. The hour we get for lunch was often an hour and a half for Cindy, and she really accomplished nothing in her time there. This continued for 3 months. Last Monday was a rare occasion where Cindy was actually ready on time to go to work together. Perhaps this was because of my gentle urging for her to get her shit together, or perhaps it was because her probationary period was ending soon, but we were able to carpool. We went out to lunch together, and Cindy ate way too slowly. I was looking at the clock and encouraging her to get a move on, but at the end of the meal, right when we had to leave to make it back on time, Cindy decided she wanted another refill of her soda. I told her time was up, but she was adamant that she absolutely needed another refill. To make matters worse, the restaurant was crowded and we couldn't flag down a server. I put the cash for the meal and a tip on the table, and I told Cindy that I was leaving, with or without her. Cindy played chicken with me here, thinking that if she refused to move, I'd have no choice but to wait. But I walked to my car and drove back. Cindy showed up 20 minutes later visually flustered. The restaurant was a 10-minute walk away, so I'm pretty sure she did end up getting her refill. She has been furious with me since. Last Friday, Cindy got her final judgment for her probationary period. Due to poor punctuality and general lack of direction, my company decided not to hire her for a full-time position. Cindy blames me. She says I made her late and that I ruined everything. Last night, she asked how she was supposed to pay her part of her rent without a job, and I responded, yes, that's a good question. How will you be paying? This threw oil on the proverbial fire, and now she doesn't even want to fight about it anymore. Was I a bad person for what I did here? What do you guys think? Lay down your ruling in the comments section and let's move on to our next story. Case 2. Am I the bad person for hanging up on my family when my sister just had her baby? I, 34F, have 2 sisters who I'll call Sally, 31F, and B, 28F. I am close to both, or thought I was. B got married a few years ago and had been having fertility issues. She and her husband finally conceived through IVF, and I was ecstatic for her when I found out she was pregnant. There have been a few times over the years where I felt purposely left out of things. I was the only one who never got an invitation to BEA's graduation. She thought I wouldn't want to go. When her grandfather passed away, they had a big family get-together a few days later. I was the only one not invited. They didn't think I'd want to go, again. When B had her baby shower, she organized it on a day where she knew I wouldn't be able to attend. All upset at missing out, I dropped off at my parents' a beautiful hamper full of things I'd been buying for the baby and B, and included a handmade blanket that one of my aunts recently passed. Hand-knitted for my little boy when she found out I was pregnant 6 years ago. Throughout her pregnancy, B has said that the day she had the baby she only wanted our parents and her husband's parents to visit the hospital, and that then they wanted the first 24 hours at home by themselves with no visitors, as they have a dog and wanted him to get used to baby first. Totally understandable and fine by me. B has had multiple medical complications throughout her pregnancy, which has meant she had to have an early C-section. I spoke to B the day before and told her my day was clear, at work but not a lot on, and that if she needed me she knew where I was and that I couldn't wait to hear from her. We didn't know the gender or anything, so very excited. On the day, I get an FB call around 1 p.m. from B in which she and my dad introduced me to my beautiful nephew. I was delighted. B then handed the phone to my mom as a nurse came in. My mom then informed me that Sally was there. My joy turned into devastation. I asked my mom why I hadn't been invited to the hospital too. She said because I was working that they hadn't thought I'd be able to go. I told her that was an issue for me to deal with and that if I'd asked, my manager would have let me leave to enjoy the moment with my family, but instead they were all there enjoying that beautiful moment without me, again. I hung up in tears from my mom. I've removed myself from the family group chat. I spoke to my manager at work who said she would have definitely let me leave for the afternoon and was shocked my family have done that. I messaged my mom afterwards and told her how upset I was and her response was, "I'm sorry you feel that way." My manager said she's gaslighting me and said my feelings are absolutely valid. But was I overreacting? Am I the bad person for hanging up on my family? What do you guys think of this one? Let us know in the comments section and let's move on to our next story. Case 3. Am I the bad person for having my mother yell at me for having intercourse with my girlfriend in my own apartment when we're both 26 years of age? So, I, 26M, live with my girlfriend, 26F, in an apartment that I pay for. We've been together for 3 years, and our relationship is great. We're both working professionals, fully independent, and, like any normal couple, we even have an active sex life. Enter my mother, 54F. She's always been a little overbearing, but since I moved out when I started dating my GF, I thought things had gotten better. Apparently, I was wrong. Last weekend, my mom came over to drop off some homemade food, which was nice, I'll give her that. I had told her she could stop by after 4 p.m. since my girlfriend and I were having a lazy morning. But, of course, she decided to show up 2 hours early with her spare key, which she has for emergencies. Well, my girlfriend and I were in the bedroom, clearly busy, when we heard my mother banging on the bedroom door. She was shouting my name and saying things like, "I know what you're doing in there and have some respect." I scrambled to throw on some clothes, went out, and asked her what the hell she was doing here unannounced. She started yelling at me about how it was disgusting and inappropriate to be doing that while guests are over. I reminded her that this is my apartment. She wasn't supposed to be here yet. We're two consenting adults. She was having none of it. She called me disrespectful, said I had no manners, and even told my girlfriend that she should be ashamed, which, WTF? My girlfriend just walked out of the room, grabbed her keys, and left because she wasn't dealing with that nonsense. I ended up arguing with my mom for 10 more minutes before telling her to leave and return the spare key. She refused at first, but I stood my ground until she finally handed it over. She left in a huff and later texted me saying she was deeply disappointed in how I spoke to her. Now, my dad and sister are both telling me I was too harsh and that I shouldn't have put her in that situation. I argued that she put herself in that situation by showing up unannounced and barging into my home. Can't wrap my head around that story. What do you think? Who is in the wrong there? Let us know down in the comments section and let's move on to our last case. Case 4. Am I the bad person for asking daughter not to bring up deceased brother anymore? I, 39F, have 3 kids. 15 and 12-year-old daughters and a 6-year-old son. When my oldest was 2, we had another child. He died suddenly at 4 days old. He had an undiagnosed congenital heart defect. It completely wrecked me. My husband and I both coped by not coping. He became a workaholic and I just tried to put it out of my mind. Our family doesn't bring him up. I don't have any pictures in the house. My 15-year-old has no memory of him and only recently started asking questions. I've answered all of them, but she keeps bringing him up. I have nothing more I can tell her, and she is just going over the same things repeatedly now. Some of the questions she has are incredibly painful ones that have no answer, and I really can't keep going over them. She keeps asking why his defect wasn't caught in time. At times she insinuates we could have done more. It wasn't caught at the hospital because at that time, pulse ox screening for newborns wasn't standard. Even if it had been caught, he would have had a short, horrible life full of surgeries and pain. It's too hard for me to keep going over this with her. At one point she asked me what he looked like when I found him. I snapped at her and told her it was not appropriate and none of her business. I was pretty harsh and her feelings were hurt. Later I felt bad about shutting her down. He was her brother, but I still feel like that was a really callous thing to ask casually. She seems bothered that this is the way her father and I coped and has asked me repeatedly if I still care about him or think about him. I feel like I've answered every question she has. Would I be an asshole for asking her to stop, or at least only ask when I'm not in the middle of something else? She pops up with this when I'm making breakfast or we're in the car on the way somewhere, and it completely throws me off. You've sat down, you've listened. Now, it's time to state your ruling. What is it gonna be? Let us have it down in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more cases like these. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.